I complain a lot because there's a lot to complain about with trains, and I'm a very negative foamer. But in this video, I have managed through some unfathomable way to put together a list of random train related things that just hit different. Before we begin, make sure to like the video for a free heritage unit, and please subscribe so we can reach 10,000 before, let's shoot for 10,000 before July. Thank you very much to my extremely dedicated fans, and let's get into the video. Starting out with something fairly obvious is going to be mainline steam. I recently got to see CP2816 on the Painesville subdivision, and it was such a cool experience, even in the rain. There are a number of tourist and museum railroads that do steam excursions, and while steam of any type never gets old, there is nothing cooler than seeing a Class 1 restoring and actively maintaining a steam locomotive and sending it thousands of miles on active main lines. Unfortunately, due to PTC and other FRA garbage, mainline steam has become extremely rare here in the United States. I very much hope that the Empress remains very active along the CP-KFC system for years to come, and it was truly one of the most beautiful trains I've ever seen, with the lovely F units, the fancy business cars, and of course, the star of the show, the 2816 herself. Hopefully I'll see it again on the return trip and get a little more footage. High headlight locomotives. There's a fair chance that the average person, or even the average foamer who doesn't spend their entire life trackside, hasn't come to notice that some headlights on locomotives are on the nose, while others are above the cab and between the number boards. I'm sure it's easy to guess that the high headlights are the ones that are up high, and the nose headlights are the ones, well, on the nose. Pretty crazy, right? Almost every locomotive on Norfolk Southern's roster, both EMD and GE, sport high headlights, while the remainder of Class 1s have few, or I think in some cases none. Don't fact check me on that, I don't actually know. Anyway, what I do know is that high headlight locomotives are just so nice. Maybe it's just me, I don't know, but there is something that makes a high headlight ace so much cooler than a nose light one. I'll take any ace, but man, the high headlight adds so much more. Anyone else know what I mean, or am I just being a delusional foamer again? I don't know. I do that all the time, so it's kind of hard to say. Same deal with SD40-2s. Here's the nose headlight. Here's the high headlight. Now, putting schemes aside, I think 1943 just looks so much better. As far as the scheme actually goes, I don't know. They're a pretty close tie. I like Cascade pretty much just as much as H1. Low ditch light GEs. If there's one GE I'll tolerate, if not even welcome, it's gotta be the ones with those fancy low ditch lights. Ditch lights in general are honestly so nice. There are endless complaints I have about the current state of the railroad and all its blandness from the perspective of a foamer like me anyway, but if there's one thing I would have to say is more visually appealing now than in the 80s or 90s, that's going to be ditch lights. Now, like anything, they have problems, like when they're burnt out, or even worse, one is burnt out. But all in all, I'm so grateful for the invention of a ditch light. It's such a small detail, but nonetheless a very important one. Now, slightly less common are these older AC44s or even the B40s with the ditch lights set lower down, and man do they look cool. Matched sets of power. I love some good variety. Be it paint scheme, engine type, it's always great. But anyway, back to the point I'm making, there's nothing quite as nice as two similarly painted engines coupled up back to back. Except like GEVOs obviously, because that's boring. I can't speak for the entirety of the railroad, but here on the BNSF, it feels like they always just be making the goofiest combos of power possible rather than just matching it up like it should be. For instance, there used to be a pair of GP60Ms numbered 125 and 132 that frequented the Hinckley sub, and for months they were split apart and put with one of the two B40-8Ws, which also should have been together at the time. It's not that I won't shoot the B40s or the GP60Ms either way, since both are really awesome locomotives, except nasty 542, cancel me all you want. It just bugs me slightly when it could be matched so easily and would look so much more photogenic. I don't know, maybe my standards are too high, but I like things to look nice. The BNSF H1 paint scheme. I don't think I'm alone in saying that BNSF really cooked with the H1 scheme. I don't mind H3 or H4, but next to H1 they basically suck. The majority of H1 wearing locomotives are C44-9Ws, with SD40-2s and Jeeps coming second, though there are still relatively few that wear it. A total of 2 SD60Ms, one of which is laid up probably forever in Minneapolis, ended up with H1, and it just looks amazing in it. There is, or at least was, a GP60M in H1 somewhere on the system, and that wears the scheme amazingly as well. Or did, I don't know. It's a North Dakota unit, so nobody's probably seen it for 30 years. I seriously think BNSF should have just stuck with H1 forever, though. There is so much right with the scheme. H1 was the first paint scheme BNSF came up with, and as they say, you just can't beat the original. I do apologize for not posting a ton recently. There hasn't been too much action out on the rails recently. Even less of it we're seeing. I might have a Hinckley sub video out at some point this month, but we'll see about that. As always, thanks for watching, and a huge shout out and thank you to all my channel members. Isaiah Vandy, Josh Norston, Trains of Southwest Michigan, Captain Morgan 757, Rebecca S, Georgia Rail Videos, Chipped Lee, William D, Transit Fan 2022, and Pasco Rail Productions. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.